Hi, I am Jackie. This is my captain Wayne, and this is our floating home, CathayOz. We are on a plane to travel from our home in Sydney, Australia, all around the world by sea. We've worked all our lives, and now that we have retired, we want to see the world from the ground up, not from the air down. Please come with us as we sail CathayOz around the world.
قال رب إني دعوت قومي ليلا ونهارا فلم يزدهم.
Banda Neira. Isolated, sleepy, laid back. Small streets are filled with small stores supplying the needs of 20,000 people spread over 10 small islands that rise 7 kilometres from the seabed in one of the deepest oceans in the world. This little town under the big volcano goes about life the way they have for 1,000 years, cultivating and collecting and exporting the seeds of plants that once could only be found here. Welcome to the Spice Island.
We want to understand the history of this place, and the best way to do that is learn about the spices themselves. This happens on the nearby island of Banda Neira, so we are off to begin our spice journey. Walking ashore, it is not hard to believe that not a lot has changed in the village that is home to the people who care for and harvest the nutmeg trees.
High above the village, the tall forests of Canary provide shelter for the smaller nutmeg trees to grow in the cooler air under the canopy. The nutmeg is harvested the way it always has been. There are no threshing or shaking machines. The villagers pick every fruit from the tree using a bladed cage on a long pole.
Nutmeg is really 3 parts. There is the fruit on the outside, which is eaten locally. Then the hard nutmeg kernel in the center is surrounded by the deep crimson maize. Once the nutmeg has been picked, the kernel with the maize is removed and put into baskets to be taken back down the hill. There, the maize will be separate from the nutmeg, ready for packing and shipping.
The colonial overlords who monopolised the nutmeg for hundreds of years were very keen to protect their privileged position. On a prominent hillside overlooking the harbour entrance, they built one of many forts on the islands. The lone sentry now guarding the fort as only to graze among the nature that is slowly reclaiming this symbol of European military power.
And that brings us to the next part of the story of the Spice Islands.
For 1,000 years, important spices that are only found here, nutmeg, mace and cloves, were traded with Indian, Chinese and later Arab merchants, who in turn sent them along the Silk Road and via caravans from India to Europe. They were in huge demand as flavourings, but also for their chemical properties such as food preservation. Nutmeg was also believed for a time to keep the plague away.
To say that these spices were important is an understatement, because they were literally worth more than their weight in gold. This peaceful trade couldn't last. In the late 1500s, once Europeans had learned to sell to the Indians, they wanted to own them.
First came the Portuguese, who realised that direct access to the spices could improve profits enormously and also bring them to a larger market. Then something happened that was to shape the world for centuries to come. The Dutch government created the equivalent of the world's first public company. We call it the Dutch East India Company. They called it the VOC. This megalith was given the funds and carte blanche to wage war, subjugate peoples, and do whatever it took to obtain a monopoly over the spices from the East. And that is exactly what they did.
The government allowed the VOC to appoint governors to what is now Indonesia. These governors used all means at their disposal to make sure that a steady flow of the precious spices traveled only in Dutch ships, and that all money paid for them was paid to Holland.
The VOC waged war against anyone that opposed them. The Portuguese were the first to go. They retreated to other parts of Indonesia where they found other ways to make money from the hapless native peoples. Then the British, who had cleverly set up on islands nearby to Banda, were attacked, and they gave way after striking a treaty with the Dutch to cede their holdings in exchange for Manhattan, New Jersey, and other lands in that area. When the Banda people rebelled over the tiny amount that they were being paid for their own resources, they were slaughtered by the VOC, who called in Japanese mercenaries to kill, enslave, and exile almost every Bandanese on the islands.
The population of Banda today is made up of those that came after. The original Bandanese are gone forever.
The Dutch left other legacies though, including some interesting period architecture. One notable example is the church. The simple interior, with its wooden pews, sits on a cement floor that covers the remains of notable people who ended their lives in Banda. A unique feature of the church is that services are held in Catholic as well as Protestant faiths.
Around the town are other VOC buildings, such as administration offices, officers' club, and officials' residence. There are 2 old hotels in Banda, and I really love these. Silu Bintan Estate, owned and run by local identity Mr. Abba, has a wonderful colonial feel to it. Large area spaces are filled with exhibits from times past, and just walking around takes you to a time when elegant people dressed for dinner and chat to each other while drinking cooled gin in the tropical heat. The Molana also has a colonial feel, but was built in the 1980s by the remarkable Des Alvin. This man's story is amazing and worth looking up. The hotel, which sits on the waterfront in front of the volcano, is still in the same family.
Another interesting facet of Banda is that when Indonesian nationalists rose against the Dutch before World War II, the leaders were rounded up and exiled to Banda.
This story repeats often here. People has been dispossessed, killed, and exiled here for centuries. In 1999, sectarian violence in Maluku province flared. The troubles spread to Banda, and in the end, many Christian residents were driven away.
Banda has imprinted itself on us. Even sitting on the boat in the anchorage, there is a feeling of intimacy, as though you're indoors whilst outdoors. This place has a very special aura. On the surface, it is laid back and chill. The people are friendly and helpful, and go out of their way to make your day. History, however, like the volcano, looms over everything, and everywhere are the scars and reminders of eruptions, both in the natural world as well as the human world. Surrounding Banda, life in the small, populated island communities flows as easily and as endlessly as the tide. This area is also known as one of the great diving sites of the world. Sadly for us, our footage of the underwater world here was lost.
Before leaving, we were treated to a banquet with so many wonderful local dishes. We were so sad to lift our anchor and let go the lines holding us to the shore as we left. We won't forget Banda Neira, the Spice Islands.
Next time we continue on through Maluku to the city of Ambon. Big, bustling, and to be brutally honest, the city and harbour are not very attractive. But Ambon has a secret. It is the Wales of Asia. It seems that everyone here can sing and make music, and this is confirmed by UNESCO giving it the official title, City of Music. We also travel from Ambon to Tifu. This tiny village could easily be called the land that time forgot. Its simple beauty and fundamental way of life is in deep contrast to the ceaseless grind of Ambon. See you then.